I recently made a video about my career in social media marketing, and one of the comments on it was from Little Miss Eden 100, and she was asking how to decide between a career in SMM or PPC. What a question. I know what PPC stands for. It stands for pay per click, and that's something that we would use when we're describing the auction on Google search, where those ad slots are on the search results page, otherwise known as the SERP, search engine results page. And there are various ad slots that your ad can register in depending on your positioning in the auction, because you're paying for the click. You are buying clicks. However, there's another acronym in this question, which is SMM. SMM can mean basically one of two different fields. The first is social media marketing, and then the other one is going to be social media management. You could also have a different S in there, perhaps, like instead of social saying search, like search marketing management, but you don't really see that. And usually what you would see is, if it was referring to social media marketing, is it would be SMM or SEM would be the dichotomy presented, because one is based off of the search platforms and the other one is based off of the social platforms. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the landscape, the types of skills associated with both, and then I'm going to provide a little bit of context of my career, and then I'm going to make some recommendations. The difference between social media marketing and social media management. This is the difference between a technical skill and a soft skill. In social media management, you're coming up with content calendars. You're doing research on the marketplace. You're seeing what your competitors are doing on their social media. You're evaluating trends, and you may be directing somebody who is a creative to create content, or you yourself may be taking the photos, writing the captions, doing the hashtag research. It's more about a long-form strategy and planning of a social media account. A social media manager at a company will likely handle all of their social media, so that's the company's Facebook, the company's Instagram, their Pinterest, their LinkedIn, all of that will fall underneath their purview. And it's possible that underneath this person would be a social media marketer. A social media marketer is going to be somebody who is doing the technical skill of creating the ad campaigns, optimizing the ad campaigns, deploying them, analyzing, and then reporting on them. So much like the social media manager, the social media marketer could either be embedded at a company, or it can be at an agency who is assigned to a portfolio of companies. Somebody who is a social media marketer would have certifications in the different platforms, right? They would have Facebook Blueprint, they would have done Twitter Flight School, they would have LinkedIn courses under their belt. They would know how to activate on a variety of platforms and know the technical skills in order to optimize and analyze the performance on those accounts. They also may know some of the more technical aspects regarding first-party tracking, developing audiences, and then managing pixels and partner permissions and tracking. A social media marketer is mainly working in the domain of paid media. They are putting money behind campaigns. They are using the business tools in Facebook Manager through the Business Manager to promote posts. Meanwhile, a social media manager is mostly conscious about the organic posts. And if this person is in charge and managing the social media marketer, then they are aware of both organic and paid realms. But if they're not the same person, and if they're not hierarchically connected in that way, and instead they are parallel to one another, then the social media manager would be in charge of organic, while the social media marketer would be in charge of paid. We call it organic because it's not incentivizing the algorithm to provide the content. We are only presenting the content organically. We are not promoting it, we're not boosting it, we're not adding any fuel to the fire. We're just seeing how the post behaves without added money. Meanwhile, PPC is something that usually runs in parallel to social media campaigns. Because it is a little bit more technical of a process, it tends to fall under the responsibility of whoever is running the website. It's not unusual to see search engine optimization and search engine marketing being managed by the same person. Theoretically, they fill a very similar position to social media marketing, so theoretically they should both be underneath the marketing umbrella in an organization. It's not unusual to see it in more of a website technology capacity than a marketing capacity. I would argue that a search engine marketer should be on the marketing team and should work in parallel, lockstep with the social media team. Something that wasn't asked that I'm just going to throw in for the flavor, for, the variety of coverage, is that a PPC purchaser, somebody who's working in the search platforms, may also fall into the discipline of display and programmatic buying. So those are tactics in digital marketing. You think of like banner advertisements or like little videos that play on news articles. Those types of elements can be purchased through the same platforms and techniques that are very closely related to search engine marketing. Search engine marketing and social media marketing are very similar. I say this as a person who's had extensive experience in both fields, which I don't know if it's typical or not. I was kind of thrust into it in a place where I didn't see people around me doing the same thing. I had an opportunity where I had been working in search engine marketing for 2 years, and I was activating across all of the search platforms. So that was Google, that was Bing, that was Yahoo Gemini, Bing ads, Google ads, and then I'd also dabbled in Amazon at that point, selling some gift cards through their product listings, PLAs, product listing ads. So I had experience doing that, and then the entire social media marketing department at my company left. They all left over the span of 2 months, and there were vacancies, and I raised my hand. I said I would really like to learn social media marketing. So I learned the technical side of social media marketing, and I found that my skills from search engine marketing were directly transferable. I was up and running within a day in Facebook ads. I had also used Facebook ads a little bit on the side for just like clubs and whatever in college, but it was pretty easy to learn social media marketing from first learning search engine marketing. Part of my job that I did not develop until later was more of the social media management aspects, because it is wildly different than social media marketing. It is absolutely more of a planning skill, and I find myself more in the position where I'm managing people who are doing both the marketing and then the planning. I'm a firm believer that once you learn search engine marketing, it's a lot easier to then pick up social media marketing. And that search engine marketing is just a lot quirkier. There's a lot more nuance going on to it. It's very technical. It's a lot of spreadsheets. It's not a lot of pretty pictures. And the Google Ads interface is not as pretty as the Facebook Business Manager interface. It's very data driven, and the majority of your volume of the data that you're crunching is going to come from a minority of your assets. So there's really a lot of curiosity and interest that goes into search engine marketing. I definitely recommend it to anyone who wants to get into digital marketing, because it is in such demand and it will always be in demand. I feel pretty firm behind saying that search engine marketing is not going away anytime soon. And then there's the added layer that through Google Ads and search platforms, you could also manage display. And then you have the tie-in of Google Analytics that you could dabble in if you're interested. And then you also have the opportunity to learn programmatic. Programmatic is the most lucrative of the search engine tactics, and I personally have not dabbled in it, and I am incredibly skeptical of it. Lucrative because it is a bubble, and it's a bubble that's been growing for like the last decade, and I'm very curious about it. I have some books to recommend, and this is going to be my first book recommendation of the day, which is The Subprime Attention Crisis by Tim Hwang. And I really enjoyed this book. This is kind of my guiding light in now evaluating programmatic campaigns, because I'm in a position where I'm dictating or providing feedback on allocation between different types of advertising, and whenever programmatic comes up, I'm just very skeptical. It is lucrative if you are entering the digital marketing industry, and I recommend checking it out, getting familiar. When we say pay per click, it does exclude programmatic and display because those are bought on an impression basis. An impression is whenever an ad loads on a page, and that impression is sold on a per thousand basis. So the acronym is CPM, cost per mille. And so when we're talking about Hulu ads or we're talking about banner ads, we're going to be talking about CPMs, and it's ironically what YouTube is sold on. I struggle to wrap my head around exactly how the algorithm works because YouTube and Google take the majority of the money, and the way that they report the CPM back to the creators is just a bizarre scenario, and I'm always struggling to understand it. With my experience in search engine marketing, I've never found myself in a position where I couldn't find work. I've turned down job offers. I feel very secure with my skill set because of that foundation in search engine marketing. Then we add on our go-to social media marketing. Social media marketing is an in-demand skill, and if you want to make it as an entrepreneur, then having the background of search and social or just social media marketing under your belt is very useful. You'll always find small business owners or even large businesses in your neighborhood that are interested in working with you. There's no shortage of people looking for social media marketers. The ability to make ads run in Facebook Business Manager or Pinterest or LinkedIn or Twitter, very attractive skill set in general. I think that it's incredibly useful if you have a more diverse skill set, like the ability to also copyright or photography, or if you have a deep understanding of Google Analytics or website design. I think that social media marketing in general requires more understanding of the landscape in order for it to work on its own. I think search engine marketing is something that could stand on its own just fine and that you won't have any trouble finding work. But I think that with social media marketing, you have to have other feathers in your cap, like an in-depth understanding of different platforms. If you only know Facebook Business Manager, it's not going to be a very marketable skill, but the more platforms you have familiarity with and the more skills you have, I think the easier it will be to get hired. And then social media management. This is definitely more of a soft skill, and it really depends on what type of businesses exist in your area. There are people who only do social media management, but they tend to be at larger companies, and it's a position where you'll have to manage other people if you cannot do social media marketing. I think that you're much more likely to get picked up as a social media manager, coming up with plans and content strategy, if you do have the technical skills behind social media marketing. And it's much easier to get hired as a social media manager if you can do social media marketing and you have experience in the field. I recently made a career move where I stepped out of the platforms. So as part of my day-to-day responsibilities at work, I am no longer activating campaigns, either search or social. I've now moved to a position where I am a liaison from the company I work for and those people, and I make sure that the strategy is sound, and I dictate the strategy or I give recommendations on directions, and then they activate on my behalf. And part of that position is that I also work with social media managers who come up with a plan and strategy, and I give feedback on like, hey, I think that's a good idea, or are you paying attention to this or not? And ultimately give a final yes or a final no about strategy in both the marketing and the management. I did that because I'm pretty skeptical of Facebook. I'm not crazy about Mark Zuckerberg or Sheryl Sandberg and the direction that that organization is going, and I didn't want to be beholden to that for the rest of my career, which is why I'm getting an MBA in marketing, so I can kind of broaden my field a little bit so that I'm not beholden to the decisions of one lizard man. I have a couple of book recommendations if you're curious about the landscape or just basically getting your feet wet in the terminology a little bit more. The first is Subprime Attention Crisis by Tim Wong, and it talks about the programmatic advertising bubble, and it has informed my strategy and the way that I think of digital marketing. This came out this year, 2021, and it is just a wonderful book. I could not stop reading it. I bought a copy, if that tells you anything about it. When we talk about social media management, this book right here is ancient. It is Socialnomics, and this is much more of like a social strategy book. It's more about coming up with planning and concepts and defining how you interact with your audience, how you decide to interact with that audience's entire network, and emboldening your audience to being advocates for your brand. This is ancient. I got it in college. I love this book. It's by Eric Qualman, and it's just, I love it. I mean, you probably see fingerprints of it all over my YouTube channel because it really dictated so much of my early relationship with social media. And then this next one is called Paid Attention, and it is by Ferris Jacob. And Ferris and his wife Rosie run a Slack group, a mastermind group called School of Stolen Genius. And I really love basically their concepts, their approach to digital media and digital marketing. And that would be more about the planning side of things, but then also strategic planning. A huge advocate of the School of Stolen Genius. Now I'm going to stop bearing the lead and I'm going to tell you which one to do. So I am incredibly biased towards search engine marketing because it has a lot of technical skills that once you wrap your mind around, make learning social media marketing much easier. In an ideal world, you would learn both, and you would learn them hand in hand. And I don't understand why colleges don't do this. Maybe they do. Maybe they're getting into it now. But I do believe that a good way to get started is to get those Google search ad certifications under your belt and then sit down and watch a couple hours of Facebook Blueprint videos and then try running some campaigns. Throw $100 into each, let it run for 2 months, and congratulations, you should know a lot by then because that's a lot of money. But also, I think that they make a great foundation. That's just for people who really like spreadsheets and algorithms. You don't have to be good at math. You just have to like numbers, which is me. Not great at math. Didn't take a single math class in college, but I love numbers. I love data. I love algorithms. I love logic thinking. So for me, it was a huge fit. I could spend all day in spreadsheets instead of meetings with people, and I would be happy. If you are the reverse, if you say numbers intimidate me, I want people. Show me people. If you would rather work with people instead of numbers, then social media management is for you. And that's coming up with the planning, that's doing the strategy, the research. That is your bag because you're going to have to be working with people in order to make it work. That one, is going to rely a lot more on your soft skills. That's my recommendation there. If one of those speaks to you more, then follow that. You are able to make a career that hits all of them. That's what I did. And I'm pretty happy with that career. But if you're starting out, I would say focus on the PPC skills, the cost per skills, the activation skills. Do you guys want to see something? Kiki!